In the south central part of the state, ergot has been showing up in elevated levels.
I think if you tallied up the most popular horror settings of the past decade, none would be more prevalent than the in a woods style of story. This archetype follows a character, or group of characters, being stalked/hunted in the woods. Popular examples of this include Gregory 89, Felix Blackwell's Cabin Getaway, Accounts from a Lonely Broadcast Station, and the pioneer of this genre, and subsequently the topic of today's video, Anansi's Goatman story. Written in 2012 and posted to the 4chan's Paranormal Board, the story follows Anansi and his group of friends on a camping trip in Huntsville, Alabama. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to read the story aloud. So without further ado, here is Anansi's Goatman story. Here's my story. Be 16, be black, and have family down in Alabama. They farm and own huge amounts of land down in Huntsville. Uncle owns a big-ass house with a bunch of trailers they put out in the woods for hunting or camping. Down south, cousins suggest we go out there to camp. They know I'm a city kid from Chicago, so they tease the fuck out of me. Collect food, kill a pig and some chickens, and bring the necessities out to camp for a few days. We get to camp and it's obvious something is weird. The air has this weird electric smell, like right before a storm, like ozone. We think nothing of it, unpack, and go down to the creek for a little swim. All of a sudden, some older white guy and his teenage son come out of the bushes. He has a shotgun in the crook of his arm and says hello, asks us what we're doing out here. Tell him about my uncle, who he knows, and say that we're out camping. He tells us that we need to be real careful out here in the woods and stick together, because there's a big animal. His son, who is my age, asks if he can hang out with us. He says okay. I'm going to stop green texting because the story is fairly long and the format is harder to write in. So we end up playing football, dicking around with me. That's real. That's not me fucking up the thing either. That's a real sentence. So we end up playing football, dicking around with me. There's this white kid, Tanner, 5 of my cousins, and the 4 of our friends. In total, there were 5 girls and 6 boys. We're all about 15, 17, and we end up just fooling around the whole day. Eventually, we head back to camp and pull out some of the stuff for a campfire. Even though the trailers both had kitchenettes, Tanner says that his family's property sits up against my uncle's and he wants to run home and ask his dad if he can come out camping with us. My cousin Rooster says he's going to go with him since it's getting dark, and one of the girls wants to tag along too. So it's about 7 o'clock and it's getting pretty dark. They grab flashlights and take the trail towards Tan's property, and the rest of us just kind of chill, smoke, drink, all that kind of stuff. About 45 minutes later, there's a smell of ozone again. You can notice it over the scent of the fire we started. It's this really nasty, coppery smell, like right after you had a nosebleed and it stopped. It wasn't exactly dried blood, but it was that metallic back-of-your-throat smell. We immediately think some kind of electrical malfunction or something like that. Someone left a hot plate on, maybe. We search the trailers, nothing's on, but we can still smell it. All of a sudden, we can hear people booking it down the trail towards us. Rooster, Tan, and the girl come running into the clearing out of breath. They don't even break stride. They just run to the trailer right by where the fire is. We all get the fuck out of there into the trailers. They end up calming down. Even Rooster is crying his eyes out at this point. All the while, the fire is guttering lower and lower, so my other cousins say fuck it and are about to go outside and get the generator. Tanner goes, fuck no, lock the doors, ain't nobody else going outside. He's been crying too. His eyes are bloodshot and puffy. His pants are dirty as shit. He goes on to tell us that when they went up to his house, his father said, sure, he can come out camping with us, but make sure to be careful on the way back, and that they maybe should take one of his hunting rifles just in case. Evidently, Tanner had seen something in their yard a few days before. One of their pigs had been ripped in half and eaten. They assumed it was just some big cat or coyote, even though they don't usually fuck with live animals. Tanner went upstairs, packed his stuff, and told his dad they were okay without the rifle, because the coyotes avoid people. Then, they started back towards where we were camping. Rooster finally stops crying and shaking. The girl already had, but now was just staring out the window with a dumb look on her face. He says that they had gotten halfway into the woods toward the camp when they started to hear shit in the forest. It was almost pitch black by this time, so they weren't sure what the fuck it was. The girl said that she heard something in the bushes right off the trail. They all beamed their flashlights over there, and there was someone standing in the woods in a little hollow. Rooster said they shouted at him and told him that he was scaring the fuck out of him. And what a dick he was. He says that's when he realized the guy was facing away from them. They kept walking, and they started smelling that nasty, coppery ozone smell. They said that when they looked back in the forest on the opposite side, there was a dude standing there, too. Backwards, slightly closer to the path now. So they started power walking, and Tan keeps going, I should have taken that fucking rifle. As they're telling this story, the smell is super strong, even inside the cabin. And they say that after that, they started walking faster. This kind of low gibberish began coming from both sides of the woods. As they booked it back to the trailer, the girl said she flashed her light out to the side of them and saw something jerking itself through the woods. The gibbering just got louder and louder, and when they could see the light from our campfire, something had come out of the woods 40 yards behind them onto the track, and they just flat out ran as hard as they could into the trailer. So we're out in the fucking woods, and we're assuming that at this point some rednecks or some shit are just trying to fuck with us. All of a sudden, my other cousin, Junior, starts going on and on about how he went to some school with a native kid and starts telling him about the Goatman or some shit. We promptly told him to shut the fuck up because we don't need that spooky talk right now, but he just keeps going on and on about it. It's the fucking Goatman, he says, and how we're in the woods and blah, 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 blah. At that time, I had never heard of this fucking Goatman or anything like that. But then a couple of years ago, before I graduated college, I had a Menom roommate, and I ended up asking him about it. And to sum it up, it's basically a fucking man with the head of a goat. He can shape-shift and get among groups of people to terrorize them. It's also supposed to be kind of like the Wendigo, where it's bad mojo to even talk about it. Keep in mind, I didn't know this back when I was 16, so my cousin is going, the Goatman's gonna get us, the Goatman's gonna get us. The girls are all terrified. My cousins and I are trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. It's probably just some hillbillies or an animal, we think. All of a sudden, the smell goes away. And to this day, I haven't even experienced anything like it. Obviously, smells usually fade or lessen, but it was literally just 1 second there, the next not. So it's after an hour, making it 9 or 10. We've stopped shitting bricks enough to go back outside and stoke the fire again. We figure it's just some assholes trying to fuck with us, so we don't go back home. Besides, we think if we do, they'll chase us through the woods or some crazy shit. Nothing else happens that night. We stay another night, and for the main part of that night, nothing happens. But at about 1 in the morning, we're outside getting drunk and telling ghost stories. As someone is finishing their too spooky story, I don't remember what about, that smell comes back. And it's so fucking strong that one of the girls literally starts vomiting. I stand up and you can actually feel how clammy the air is. I say we should go back inside, that this isn't right, and that we should have just fucking left. We all go back inside, and we're standing around. My cousin keeps going on and on about how it's the Goatman again. My other cousin, Rooster, tries to shut him the fuck up, and all the while, I just get this feeling that something's off. I can't figure out what it is. We end up sitting in there for a while. The smell is just as strong, and we're terrified, all huddled in this camper. We end up cooking brats for everybody because nobody wants to go outside. It's one of those packs of 4 brats with a total of 3 packs. I grill them up on the stove, and I give everyone a hot dog, then get mine. After a while, one of my cousins gets up, goes over to the pot, and gets another one. He starts grumbling about how I got 2 brats and everyone else only got 1, and I look at him like he's fucking stupid. And I tell him everybody got 1 because there are only 12 brats, and if he wanted more, he should open up a new pack and cook some more. That's when one of the girls that had been out with Rooster and Tan just starts screaming. Oh Jesus, oh good Lord, get out. She's crying and shivering. Then it dawns on the cousin standing up. What the fuck is wrong? Me and him both glance around the room, and then I feel my heart sink. I run the fuck out of the cabin. The girl runs out with us. The trailer door bangs on the side of the trailers. Everybody books it out. One of my cousin's friends asks us what the fuck is wrong. I start counting us. There's only 11 now. I shit you not. My cousin verified. There had only been 12 people in the cabin, but being that everyone didn't really know each other well, nobody had noticed the whole fucking time that there was an extra person. And then I realized earlier that I kind of noticed something was off. You know how when you're just kind of fooling around, having a good time, you don't sweat the small shit? And you always keep track of certain stuff? I'm dead sure that someone else had been in the trailer with us, and that they had been there for at least a day, eating with us. What makes it worse is that I couldn't figure out who it was, because I don't think anyone actually interacted with the other person. The girl kept praying to Jesus, and we're all sitting outside. Eventually, we get big-ass sticks and go back in the cabin, but there's nobody in there. We count again, and there's 11. We go back to the trailer and lock the door. We explain what the fuck happened, and the girl says she realized it too. and that when she was about to say something, the person sitting next to her had grabbed her leg hard, leaned over to her, and said something she couldn't understand. So we're all scared as hell, and we huddled together. That is fucking funny, like possums. So we're all pretty much scared as fuck, and we huddle together, and I fall asleep. When I wake up, the sun is coming up, and half the people are asleep, and the other half are packing up our stuff. We all want to go back home, but like 4 people want to stay until the sun is up, and some people think that we're still just screwing with them, and they want to stay at the trailers. I want to get the fuck out of the woods. The girl's name was Kara, the one that the Goatman touched. Anyway, I asked her if she really thinks that something bad happened. And she says that she just wants to go home and that she doesn't want to be out in the woods alone for another night. So we decide to split up. The 4 that want to go can go, but I have to stay because I have the keys to the cabin and it's my uncle's. I have to lock it up. I'm super pissed at this point because I feel like people aren't taking this shit seriously, and I definitely didn't want to be out in the woods another night. I spend the rest of the day trying to convince the rest of the people now, there's 4 girls and 4 guys, to get the fuck out of Dodge. Tanner leaves with them to go get a rifle and says that he's going to be back, so it's just the 7 of us left by 4 p.m. Around 5, he hasn't made it back yet, and we're getting extremely fucking antsy. The only reason I stopped begging them to leave was because he went to go get a gun. At about 5:30 or so, one of the cousins that did stay says the girl Kira is outside. We all look, and sure enough, she's standing by the fire pit with her back to the cabin. I'm thinking to myself, if she's so scared, why doesn't she come back inside? And then I get this nasty feeling in my gut. Keep in mind, the whole time, the coppery smell is gone. Now I realize I can smell just a twinge of it. I say this to the rest of them, everybody, and these people that wanted to stay in the woods, after all that goddamn Goatman shit, start laughing at me and asking if I set this up to scare them. I look at them and I'm like, I'm not fucking bullshitting you right now. I ask them, why the fuck would I play like that? So one of the girls goes outside to get Kira. She gets halfway to her and stops cold. Kira starts heaving. I don't know how the fuck to describe it. It's like someone with their back turned was laughing without actually making any sound. This fact made me realize that there was not a fucking sound in the whole woods. It was dead silent. This is like late September too, so it was fairly hot at the time, but super chilly some days too. You could usually hear big-ass geese honking or some type of squirrels or birds chit-chatting. I step out of the door and tell the girl to come back in the trailer right now. She backs up in, and we lock the door, pull down the shades, except one, and put a guy there in a chair to watch Kira. She stands there for another 20 minutes or so. Eventually, the guy turns to see that she's still there, and there's this huge fucking bang on the door. We all jump up and scramble around the living room of the trailer. The banging is super loud. My cousin is holding one of the girls, and the 2 other are kind of giggling with nervous laughter. Me and the other 2 guys are shitting bricks. Then we hear Tan screaming, "Let me the fuck in! Stop playing!" We go over to the door, open it, and he stumbles in with a rifle. There's nobody else outside. Evidently, he had walked up to the campsite. Nothing weird happened in the forest, but he'd seen a girl. Mind you, he said it was not Kira standing there. When he had gotten to the edge of the clearing, she had turned towards him with a slack-jawed look and just stared him down, slowly tracking him as he walked around the outside of the clearing towards camp. He said that it wasn't until he almost got halfway to the trailer that he realized she was getting closer to him. She'd start off by the fire, and without him even seeing her move, she had been turning, inching closer to him. He just ran the rest of the way back to the cabin, thinking that it would open. When he got to the door and it was locked, he turned and it was about half the distance to the door. He looks around the room and gets super pale. He pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, "You know there are only 7 of us in here, right?" I get that feeling where your stomach drops to your sack. It had been inside the trailer while we were sorting out who was going where, and when we were all outside talking earlier that day. It had just slipped right back in. We look out at the window, and there's nobody there, so we recount. And then I go over and ask everyone how many people there were earlier, and everybody says 8. I say, well, how many are there now? They all do a count and realize there's only 7 people in the cabin. Tan had brought back a couple of boxes of ammo with his rifle. He had told his dad there was some type of large animal in the forest because he didn't think he would believe him if he said it was the Goatman. He says that his cousin is supposed to come down in a few hours and get us in the morning so that we can all go back to his place and his cousin will drive us home. Now I'm fucking terrified, but at least I feel better because we can be American and shoot the fuck out of whatever it is. But my cousin gets into a huge argument with one of the girls because she still thinks that I'm trying to be funny and prank them. She's getting really scared and thinks that it's not funny. He keeps telling her that I'm not the kind of person to do that, and she says, well, how do we know that the girl wasn't just Tanner in a wig? Or if it really was the Goatman, how do we know that this is the real Tanner? And that the Goatman didn't just kill Tanner in the woods and take his gun. So we get into a huge fucking argument about this, where me and Tanner just like, we could seriously be in danger because at the very least, someone has been sneaking themselves into our fucking trailer without us knowing and mingling with us. And at the worst, something bad is in the forest fucking with us. One of the girls is crying now, saying that she wants to go home. We tell her that, we shouldn't because none of us are walking through the woods in the middle of the night. At this point, the sun is starting to go down and it's getting a little cloudy out. We eat something and turn on the radio for a while. We can't really get a station out here with anything decent, so we turn it off at about the time that Tan's cousin shows up. He was like 19, I think. Now the sun is barely over the horizon. He has one of those heavy-duty lantern flashlights and another rifle. He walks up to the trailer and we whisper to Tan asking if he's sure that's his cousin. He says yes. The guy looks behind him all around the camp and then walks in. He kind of glances at all of us and is a little confused. He says, "Where's your other little buddy at? I figured she would meet us up at the cabin. Is she a little slow or something?" Is she a little slow or something? She a little slow or something? She a little slow or something? He also asked whether we had been cooking in the cabin because it smelled like blood and hot pans all the way up the trail. We're like, no, and we ask him what the fuck he's talking about. He says that he had come down the same trail Tan had been using and found, quote, one of you guys' buddies standing in the middle of the trail looking at him slack-jawed. He asked her a bunch of questions, but all she did was look at him. Then she smiled and kept walking. She couldn't quite seem to keep up with him and kept lagging a little behind. He said he asked her if she was hurt or something and if she needed any help, but she had continued to stare. Eventually, he turned around a bend of the trail, but when he went back to see if she was okay, the trail was empty. He assumed that she had taken some sort of shortcut through the woods to our trailer. We tell him the whole story of what's been going on, and I half expect him to say that we're full of shit, but he just listened and then sat down on one of the couches in the living room. Tanner's cousin gets back to the girl. He says that when she kept trying to lag behind him, it kind of weirded him out. So he tried keeping her in front of him, but no matter how slow he walked, she always lagged behind a little. He smelled that nasty, coppery smell, and it got stronger as he got to the camp. Eventually, it got really strong. She had said something really low he didn't catch, and when he turned around, she had been right up on him. He stepped back from her at this point and asked if she was okay. If she wasn't, he offered to carry her back the rest of the way. She just kept staring. He said that he reached out for her, as in to grab her on the shoulder, but he must have misjudged the distance because she was off to the side where he had put his hand, like she had moved while he was looking dead at her. At this point, we know shit's real, unless Tan is playing a joke, which we can tell he's not because he's almost pissing his pants. They load up the rifles, we eat some more, and we just kind of sit around until 11. To this day, I pray to God that it was just some huge prank my cousins played on me so that I would shit myself for the rest of my life. At around 11, the stink of copper turned into this actual gross blood-like smell, like cooking blood and singed hair. Tan and his cousin Reese get the fuck up instantly and grab their rifles. There's like a half a knocking, half crawling at the door, and I shit you not, there's a voice. It sounds like when you see those YouTube cats and dogs whose owners teach them how to talk. It says in this haltingly weird toned voice, "Let me talk and stop playing." It made my fucking nuts creep right up against my body, and one of the girls just starts crying, calling out for Jesus. It was so fucking obviously not a person. It didn't have the right cadence. It was some weird shit, and I never realized up until that moment. But all people have a certain cadence when they talk, no matter what language. All people have a certain kind of rhythm when talking. This shit didn't have any cadence or rhythm. One of those YouTube cats, that's what the fuck it sounded like outside the door, and there's this little video here, so I'll play that right now.
Oh, no.
It sounded like this almost, just not funnier. Sorry for being on a tangent, but you can't imagine how this shit sounded. Then you can't imagine how fucked the whole situation was. So now I'm in full-on terror mode and we keep yelling outside, "Who is it? Stop fucking around, man." It just keeps saying, or, "Let me the fuck in," for almost 15 minutes, and the smell goes away for a while. And for the next hour or so, you can hear someone basically creeping around the woods and shit. Every couple of minutes, it comes back to the door and says something. Finally, the smell fades away at around 2 in the morning. Reese says, "Man, fuck this," opens the door, walks outside with a rifle, fires a shot into the air, and says something effective, "In the name of Jesus Christ, go away." He fires 2 more times into the woods, right up against the river across from the trailer. It sounds like something is slowly gibbering and hooting. Then it starts screaming. It sounds like a woman and a cat in a bag screaming together. Like, I seriously have never heard anything like that. We hear the bush over that way start to shake. Reese fires into the tree line and starts backing up into the building. We lock the door. We can hear this shit keening and screaming. Reese says something came out of the bushes, super low to the ground, and was crawling towards the cabin. He shot at it. Pretty much that was how the rest of the night went. Literally constant screaming for the next 2 hours, shit moving into the tree line but never coming back up to the cabin until everyone had fallen asleep. Tan had been sitting in the chair watching the door with his rifle. Nobody else heard or saw this, and he told me 2 days later after this whole thing was over. He said that he had been nodding off after the screaming noises finally stopped. He had almost been asleep when he saw someone come out of the bathroom and then lay down in the middle of the floor and go to sleep. He assumed that it was just one of us, and that the guy had nodded off. Then he said he kind of realized something was wrong and pretended to be sleeping and counted us. There were 9 people in the cabin. He didn't want to shoot the fucking thing and have it kill all of us right then and there, or have Reese wake up and start shooting us, kill ourselves. Okay, so we just stayed awake all night pretending to be asleep. He said sometimes it would stand up and kind of do this weird jittery thing or heave like it was laughing but then lay back down. The story closes pretty weak because from my perspective nothing happened. When we all woke up, I noticed that Tam was a little jittery and that he was avoiding looking at all of us. But we ate some breakfast, packed up, and started walking to his house. He stayed last in the cabin, said that he'd lock up and bring me my uncle's keys. He told us just to start walking, that he'd catch up, which I didn't really mind. We got a little bit up the path, and then he came running up. We jogged back up to his house. His cousin took us home. There was a window in the bathroom. Tan had gone back to lock up and looked in there. We were too stupid to lock the screenless window, and it was fucking up when he went in there. I'm guessing it had been doing that all along, waiting for us to fall asleep or slip up, and then getting among us. Oh no. It walked with us all the goddamn way back to his house. Then he said it lagged to the back of the group and looked him dead in the eyes before walking back into the woods. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of Anansi's Goatman story. If this were a modern tale, you could definitely call it cliché. But because this story was the first of its kind, you can't really fault it on elements that would become the standard for stories in this genre. The whole, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and if it worked well in other stories, it'll work well in mine, etc., etc. And in my overall opinion, I think the story serves its purpose. Lines like, "the story doesn't end strong," would come off as stupid today, but in the context of being a story posted to 4chan in 2012, it adds an air of believability to it that I think is lost in modern online horror pieces. So, genuinely a fun read. 6 out of 10.